Nottingham Forest are a team breathed in history, winning not one but two European Cups, having absolute icons play for them: Stuart Pearce, Roy Keane. There's so many to go ahead, and in the 80s, the 90s, they were on top. And there was one man who stood above them all, who took Nottingham Forest to the very top. Siri, define aura. That aura is Brian Clough, a man who really put Forest on the map, winning a European Cup and ultimately making them a powerhouse. His time at Forest really did put them on the map, but as history has gone on, Forest have just been a mid-table championship shitter who realistically have not even been able to go the full way and get back up to the Prem until recently, where they had a manager by the name of Steve Cooper. His CV might be a bit poorer now, but he was the one to eventually lead Forest back to the promised land. A team who are so rich in history, one of the great teams in England, putting up the bloody Diddy Mushes on the map, and they deserve to be back in the Prem. Steve Cooper might not be Brian Clough, but he definitely holds a place in Forest hearts, getting them back to the promised land.
Reporting live from Kieron Talk Studios, Nottingham Forest have their Alex Ferguson of Manchester United, and that man is Brian Clough. I don't think his name is pronounced Clough, by the way. I've sort of butchered his name. Is it Clough? Like rough and ready, because that is what Nottingham Forest is at the moment, and that is what Brian Clough did to them. He was the man to win them back-to-back Champions League trophies. They're bigger than Man City. They have more trophies than Manchester City, and these teams, Forest, Leeds, you know, the ones that have been in the Championship for a long time, and they occasionally come up. It's nice to see them stay up and really attack the big teams in the Premier League, because they are massive clubs. We can have these Ipswiches and Southamptons, and I respect their fan base, but realistically, there's bigger fish in the sea that are waiting to just come and feast, realistically, and that is what Nottingham Forest have done under Nuno. They deserve it more than anyone, because, you know, to see where they was under Brian Clough and winning the titles in the Champions League, or whatever it was called, the European Cup at the time, really playing well in the Premier League, one of them teams. You had like this of Blackburn, etc. It was a different era, but then getting relegated in 1999, and I believe it's 1999, and wallowing in the Championship for so long. Their ownership before the ones that have just came in, pretty poor, and didn't really understand the football club and how to run a football team. They managed to finally get it right. Steve Cooper will be a hero for them, and to see them come up and doing so well, it's very nice to see, you know, breaking the mould. And that is all down to one man who comes from Portugal, and he goes by the name of Nuno.
And although Forest's first few seasons in the Prem was not great, they did survive ultimately, and that would have been their aim. Steve Cooper managed to keep them up, ultimately eventually getting sacked for his poor form. But they had built a team that was rigid, able to compete on the big stage and stay in the Premier League. And now the arrival of a man who goes by the name of Nuno Esperanto, an ex-Wolves manager, dirty fuckers, and also a man who went to Saudi for a little bit of Wonga. Didn't end up working out, and he found himself at Forest, ready to rebuild his career. He'd had times at Wolves where he'd got him into the Europa League quarter-final, really pushing the boundaries, and everyone lauded him. Then having a failed stint at Spurs, failing in Saudi Arabia, he needed somewhere where he could prove his managerial skill, and Forest was the perfect place. Signings like Chris Wood, Elanga, Callum Hudson-Odoi, Morgan Gibbs-White, they had built and built. And where they are now in the table is absolutely incredible. Fighting for Champions League spots. They are unbelievable and one of the most dangerous teams in the Premier League. It's been a long time coming, but are Nottingham Forest finally back to where they truly belong?
So Nottingham Forest are really turning the gears under Nuno Esperantino. They currently sit, where? Third, is it? Above Manchester City. They're in the top four. Everybody's still doubting them. But I do think, as we've said, that they are that next team to break into that Big Six mould and reach Europe. Will they win Champions League? Who knows?
Villa have done it, Newcastle have done it. I think Forest could be the next team to do it. And, you know, they'll say Chelsea are lurking, these teams below them will get it more than them. But they've built a team that is rigid, much like Newcastle, how, as Michael Owen would say, if you concede no goals, you're more likely to win in a game. And they are very hard to beat. You saw it against Liverpool. I said it in the Arnie Slot video. Liverpool, their hardest opponent, has been Nottingham Forest, losing at Anfield and then drawing at the City ground. They've smashed AC Milan, they've dicked Real Madrid, but Nottingham Forest have been the ones against most teams that they are hard to beat. And when you can keep clean sheets, Sell's an amazing keeper. You really do set a standard and you set yourself up to just keep attacking and scoring more goals. You've got the likes of Chris Wood, Callum Hudson-Odoi, Elanga, Morgan Gibbs-White. Some players that might seem like rejects at other clubs, they've came together in the fortress of the City ground and really pushed the team up the table. It's phenomenal what they have done, the results. You saw it against Brighton. They've got dicked against Bournemouth. Boom, 7-0 against Brighton. They're not afraid. And Nuno has really came back after his shit stint at Saudi Arabia, pocketed a little bit of money, just like Gerrard. Yeah, I'll move over to Saudi for a couple of months. I don't care how the results go. Pretty much set my life up. And then I'll go back and show the Premier League that I'm still here, baby. I can still do the talking and wipe the floor with most of these managers. Nuno, who the last time we saw something like this was at Wolves, where he got them into, what was it, the Europa League quarter-final. But for Forest, the way they have performed this season and where they were under Steve Cooper at the end of his tenure, who will be a hero in their culture, but they was close to relegation, and Nuno, with mainly the same players, has got them up the table. Do I think they will get top 4 in the Champions League? I don't know if I can 100% bet my house on it, but I would say that I think they will get Europe. They'll finish in the top 7. The people doubting Nottingham Forest are the ones that doubt Newcastle, the ones that doubt Villa, whoever it might be who's making that surge. And they'll praise them here and there, but as soon as you're about to attack the big 6, the Chelseas, the Tottenhams, you're in for it. The corporations, the Sky Sports, the BT, they don't want you wanting them to get top 4 because I think I saw this somewhere like Spencer FC. The reason they show the half 4 games of mostly Spurs, City, Arsenal, Chelsea, Man United, if you look at those Super Sundays or Super Soccer Saturdays, majority of them are the typical big 6 clubs because guess what? Those are the clubs that the corporations want you to support because they get more money, and ultimately, if the fans support them, it keeps the corporations happy. You know, they're making more money because of the big clubs, etc., etc. When a little club comes in who doesn't necessarily have the fan base, it's like, hold on a minute, the police are coming. Do you hear that? They want to arrest fucking Gary Neville because he is biased towards the top big 6. And it's not on anymore. Nottingham Forest are the ones to crash into the top 4. And I truly believe that they have had an amazing season and will reach some European glory or reach into the leagues. But they've had very, very big results, and it's all down to the team as players or Nuno. As they say on All or Nothing, you're either all in or you're all out. You're either a team working hard, relentlessly putting your life on the line for your football team, or you're Marcus Rashford, your Dele Alli, going out to the club, smoking a spliff, doing a bit of gear, whatever you might be doing, trying to get the girls. And we all love that to a certain extent, do we? I certainly don't. I don't know what you're thinking there, but there's 2 different lifestyles, you know. Maybe back in the day, you could have both ways, but nowadays, the media and everything, you're going to get ripped to shreds, and it does show in your training and your form. The likes of like Ronaldo, say, compared to someone who really relentlessly works hard, compared to maybe I hate to put him under the mud, but there's so many. There's like Rashford. You could say who else is there? Wayne Rooney back in the day. There's ones that, you know, they have little slips. They enjoy life, but because they're scrutinising the big world of the media, anything you do that's not football is considered bad. That's besides the point. Nottingham Forest players aren't doing that. Although Chris Wood, I have saw your cheeky Snapchat story. Not that he's added me to his close friends list, but I don't know where he was. He was doing a balloon. Naughty, naughty boy. But look how he's changed his career around. It just shows that you can be one place one time
and then in a couple of years, boom, you've worked hard and you've got yourself close to the top goal scorer in the Premier League. It's fantastic stuff. So Nottingham Forest have done a really, really good job. And it's all thanks to Nuno Espirito, the man that they sometimes called the Portuguese Pep Guardiola.
Champions League football could well and truly be on the cards. There is always the big six lurking, but if Forest continue this form, they can achieve it. There has been many teams along the recent seasons, Newcastle, Villa, getting that top 4 spot. Are Forest next in line? And you would go as far to say that they deserve it. The history that they are reaved in, they are a bigger club than Man City. They are a bigger club than Chelsea FC. Those clubs that almost have oil money pumped into them constantly. Nottingham Forest have been so rich in history and have been there before. Is Nuno the man to bring it all back? Is Chris Wood the next Luis Suarez? I don't think so. But it is truly remarkable how as a team and as a unit, you're seeing these teams now who you might see as small in terms of where they should be in the league, you likes of Bournemouth, Forest, even Fulham and Brighton, working their way up the table and playing great football. And that's a credit to the ownership, who in previous times their ownership has been terrible. They've experienced an absolute turbulent time, especially the last 10 years before getting to the Premier League, where their team was just not good enough, not working hard enough. The ownership didn't know what they're doing, but they are finally back now. And I think their future is bright. If they could potentially even get into Europe, that is a big, massive step. And Nottingham Forest may well and truly be back. And that's all thanks to the club, the ownership, and also the manager, Nuno Espirito Santo. Is that his name? Sorry, mate. And next season could be a real bounce for them. They can attract bigger players, attract more fans, and even potentially reach silverware. Nottingham Forest are a team who have been asleep for far too long. Are the Giants now finally awake?
And now Nottingham Forest, as I said, I really do hope they get Europe. It's nice to see someone really pushing the boundaries. Where can they go from here? You know, we've saw it with Villa this season. We've saw it with Newcastle. When you do get into Europe, your team does tend to drop off in the Premier League. The depth that the big clubs have is very hard to attain at the start of your tenure in these European competitions. Would that happen to them? I would presume so. Obviously, you could say Chris Wood has had a purple patch. There's players in that team who have been outstanding. But can they build upon this? A bit like Newcastle, you know, they've just reached the Carabao Cup final. Could they finally get a trophy? I think if they continuously invest and manage their team well, not have these egos about, you know, they don't want to go to all these so-called bigger clubs. They're happy with Forest, and Forest can attract maybe a higher calibre of players, as almost Villa and Newcastle are. I keep using them as examples, but they're the two teams that you could consider being quite big and reaching that European stage. I fully believe they can, and they've got the right manager in Nuno, but I would be worried of how Nuno acted at Wolves. I know there was some big issues with ownership, so if they can back him and he can get the players he wants, then why not? Why can't they go and win a trophy potentially, or, you know, maintain a continuous top 8 battle? Who knows what the future holds at Nottingham Forest, but they are truly back, and this season they have been an unstoppable force. The rise of Forest has been truly remarkable. How far will they be able to go?